showing up over Norway. Could that be related to this? It could be. I don't have enough information to say yes or no. I would not be surprised, though. If in some way it has direct relation to it, I would not be surprised. But I don't want to say absolute.
Okay.
I'll allow people to do their own research, and now I'm going to continue to do my research. It's interesting what you just mentioned about the soulless beings, because the project that I was mainly a part of, the project that I was in reality, from the time I was a child, was prepared for. And that's, again, we will get into that on the next interview. Project Seagate. Project Seagate was a major project with a huge underground base location, and they were working on many different sub-projects. Project Seagate is almost like a subversion of MKUltra. Project Seagate, one location, but had many sub-projects. Everything from the Human Dolphin Super Soldier program to an Omega program where they were making soulless beings for remote viewing and actual, via the Seagate, being able to put people there. And yes, this is real people, their astral self, their energy, their soul, into one of these robots for covert operations, so that if the body gets killed, they are able to extract and put it in. I have people that I know that this has happened to, and we have absolute evidence of this happening.
So this is a lot like Avatar, basically. You're talking about military personnel that basically they're going in, inhabiting these robotic beings.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
And also they found that it was easier to have this for traveling for operations through the Seagate, off planet. My specific role, which I don't want to get into right now because it's very complicated, but I will say that my involvement with Project Seagate was very high up, very in depth, and I've been to some interesting locations.
Okay. Do you think that you yourself were doing some of this, I don't know, having your essence go into one of these robotic beings and travel, or is your experience different than that?
I worked with people that did that, but because of my specific training, as far as alterations that were done to my body, even as a young child, some memories are coming back that even my parents have no recollection of. I was able to physically be relocated because of what was done to me. And there's another person that you were in contact with who was able to do the same thing, who actually was a person I worked with closely that was there.
Okay.
And this person, who, when the time comes, this person will be talking to you.
Sure.
Someone you've already talked to will be speaking of the Project Seagate as well.
Okay, and you've some unique abilities in terms of water. Is there a thought that you yourself were, I don't know, your DNA was combined with, for example, a dolphin? Is that possible?
I'm learning new things about myself almost every day. With me, anything is really possible because I've been told some things by reliable sources that have completely blown me away. And in fact, I'm still having a hard time. I mean, I accept it. I know it's true, but it's very hard to deal with because, I mean, my body has been through a living hell. I had some questionable experimentations that were done to me as a child that I absolutely remember. Well, I'll just say this. The reason why everything began for me from the time I was 3 years old. I have an absolute memory that I've been able to get confirmed from family where I was taken to a facility by a certain relative. I will mention that when I do my full interview, who I do not have contact with, was not allowed to have contact with when I was 3 years old. And I was thrown into a pool and they induced me to drown. I remember laying then on a slab next to this pool, throwing up and coughing up water, and then seeing these men around me and saying, "We have one." I remember hearing that. This is not a dream. This is not a fantasy. This is absolute. I still wake up with having night terrors and flashbacks about this. I've always been able to hold my breath for a long time without having to do the hyperventilating. I've always had a very interesting relationship with water. I have several people that you know that can absolutely, with complete honesty, tell you of accounts that they've witnessed of things that have happened to me with water. I have been told not to do any kind of soaking in water because of something which I will reveal in the next interview, which could happen.
Okay, so let me, rather than go down that road, since this interview is about another matter,
Yes.
let's go back to the Gulf of Aden and talk about the false flag subject in terms of what specifically, if anything, has been left out of this interview so far, because I think we could wrap this up as it is.
Yes.
I can't think of any particular areas that we might not have covered, but then maybe something might occur to you. So I want to make sure that we've covered this topic, that you've gotten out the word about what you think is coming in regard to the buildup of the military there. Any other random thoughts that or information, pieces of information that you might have that would be pertinent for the public to be aware of here?
Don't travel to the Middle East this year. Do not travel there. Do not go there because they do not care about collateral damage. They proved that with 9/11. They proved that with the Oklahoma bombing. They proved that on December 25th. They proved that at Fort Hood. They do not care. You are an expendable piece of property to the global elite, to MKUltra, to governments all around the world. I have just a really deep, sinking, dark feeling that there's going to be a lot of death. I've been seeing death. I've been having visions of some really horrible scenarios that could definitely are possible, not just in the Middle East, specifically Yemen, but in country. Do your research. Everything that I have said in this interview and that Kerry has said, please, what I'm telling you is absolute, and I've also specified what was theory, what was my intuition, and I've even labeled some sources where I gathered information. Everybody that sees this interview, I encourage you to do the same. Don't just take my word for it, because if you just take my word for it, you're doing the same as watching TV or watching the movies and taking their word for it. You need to do the research on your own, because that will allow you to open your mind and really give you self-empowerment. The greatest gift humanity was ever given was free will, and as long as you allow your free will to keep working, you will open up to what's occurring. False flags are going to be happening more. Based on my intuition and my intelligence that I have gathered, something else big is going to happen in the United States, and it's all being done to invoke this war on terror in Yemen for movement with the StarGate. Is it going to be to help escort these beings from off planet, or are these